we shifted into this era where people started to realize how comfortable naked bikes are on the street, and with companies making hyper nakeds and more powerful nakeds, more torquey, more comfortable. I mean, you had the R9, and then you had the Aprilia Tuono. I mean, sorry, not the R9, the MT-09, and the NT10, and the Aprilia Tuono, and the Ducati Street Fighter V2 and V4, and the BMW. I'm not a huge fan of BMW, but still a good bike. Don't get me wrong, very nice bike. But with all of those being created, it really gave rise to the era of the naked bike, and there are a lot of reasons to love all of those. A lot of reasons. I mean, they have the power of their super sport counterparts. They tweaked the torque curves, be it by altering the engines or just changing the sprockets and whatnot, so that the torque is generally lower down. So they have a lot of power still. They have a lot of torque. Very street friendly. They've got, it's very comfortable. You're in an upright sitting position. Really, the only downsides I can think of with those is the looks, and that's personal preference, and I think a lot of them look really great. Like the Aprilia Tuono is a beautiful bike, and same thing with the Ducati Street Fighter. I think it's a beautiful bike, but the looks differ from the sport bike counterparts. And the other thing is the lack of wind protection. Of course, I've got a low windshield right now on my bike. I've got a WRS one coming in at some point, so that'll help. But these naked bikes, they don't really have windscreens. They don't really have the design philosophy the sport bikes have to get the wind off of the rider when you're tucked, at least. Naked bikes don't really have that. But with those being the only two downsides, and maybe I guess I would say those are probably the only two downsides, really. Because I mean, they handle exceptionally well. They're very fun. So and they're cheaper a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times they are less expensive. The insurance is less expensive. The maintenance is easier because you don't have to take all the fairings off to do things like doing an oil change on this thing at home. It takes a while. I mean, I gotta rip apart half the bike basically to be able to do an oil change. It's maybe a little exaggerated, but it's a lot more. It's a lot easier to do maintenance, I would say, on a naked bike. They have a lot of advantages, a huge number of advantages. But the thing is, here I am on a Panigale V2. With all of those advantages, with all the things that I just said, why am I still on a sport bike? The ergonomics are uncomfortable on the street. There is no cruise control. I do get the wind protection, that's nice. The torque comes later, and the V2 is maybe a little bit of an exception to this compared to like a 600 or even a 1000. I mean, like the R1 extremely fast bike, you still have to kind of get up in there in the revs to get a lot of that torque. I would say the V2 has a good amount of torque low down, but not compared to some of these naked bikes. And so you have to ask the question, why am I still on a sport bike? Why am I enduring the discomfort of the hyper stiff suspension and the low down clip-ons and the high up rear sets, bending my back all the time, having to squeeze the tank with my knees and thighs so that I don't have to put so much strain on my wrists? Is it just for the looks? Is it what's the reason? And I would say there's a lot that we gave up when we switched off of sport bikes, and a lot of people don't mind, and everyone has their own preferences, and everyone has a different reason for loving motorcycles and a different reason for loving riding. And the thing with me is I have loved sport bikes from a very young age. Watching Moto America and MotoGP throughout my teen years and my early 20s, I always just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Leaning all the way over, getting your knee or elbow touching the ground, just crazy adrenaline pumping riding. I always thought that was so cool. It was so cool. And so I guess the design philosophy of sport bikes has always really spoken to me, and unfortunately I don't live in an area that has what I would consider roads that cater to that all that much. Now this one is fairly nice, but it's not like the canyons of California or actual racetracks. But for the most part, I'm not actually even on roads like these. I'm kind of on highways and straight roads, and roads that really don't cater to sport bikes. And despite all of that, I am still on a sport bike, and I love it. And I do have to do stretches when I get off the bike, because it does put a strain on my back and my neck for sure. And but whatever. And I also have to continue to exercise just so that I can be more comfortable on the bike, especially for longer riding sessions. And those are sacrifices I am more than willing to make for this bike, because really what it comes down to is when you finally get the chance to do a pull with your arms bent and tucked up into the bike like you're in a F-16 fighter jet or something, or find a nice sweeping curve that's well paved and it like the back of your hand, so you just really crank the bike over, just hanging off the edge. Looks like you're almost touching the pavement. You're this close to being against the road as it flies by at 90 miles an hour. It's exhilarating. And then when you finally get off the bike, you park it in the garage or in the parking lot or whatever, you finally get off the bike and you just look at it for just a few seconds before going inside. And the feeling I get just looking at the bike when I get off it, it's a feeling of satisfaction. And all of that truly makes up for every downside of a sport bike. Now, would I like cruise control? Yes. There are sport bikes that have it. The Aprilia RSV4, the BMW S1000RR, I believe the new Ducati V2 and V4, actually, the 2025 models have it as well. I'm not sure about the V4, I know the V2 does. There are sport bikes that have it, and as time goes on, I suspect that it will become more of a normal feature, especially since, even this bike is electronic throttle. There's really no reason not to have it. It's easy to program in. They just chose not to, which is fine. Would I like to have that? Yeah, that'd be nice. Would I like to, on long highway rides, not have to hunch over? Well, I think that kind of goes back to the cruise control aspect too, right? Because if you have cruise control, you pop that on, you sit back on your bike, just hands-free on the bike. Like, you can still control it pretty well, especially on a straight road. So I don't even mind that. I don't even mind the low bars on the sport bike. I would like cruise control. I do really want cruise control. But other than that, I mean, you know, and you can get a throttle lock. There are workarounds to these things. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to for me, and in a world where everyone, I guess, tells, on YouTube especially, everyone seems to be saying, don't buy a sport bike. You won't like it. Get a naked. They're way better. You know, everyone thinks sport bikes are cool until you actually have to ride one for an hour, and then your body hates you. And it's not worth it. Just get a naked. You're not going to do the type of riding you think you're going to do, etc., etc., etc. How often do you go to a racetrack? Twice a year? You know, maybe never, depending on who you are, depending on how much the racetracks around you cost, or even if there are racetracks around you. You know. So people always, there are a lot of people saying, stay away, danger, it's not worth it. Oh, especially for more powerful sport bikes. Oh, you're never going to use that power on the street. Yeah, that's probably true. But it's fun. It's fun. So, if you love it, do it. And I love it, man. I love it. So, I'm going to keep doing it. And as I age, and as my body becomes less and less able to recover from exhaustion, maybe I will get a naked bike. But I suspect I'll be with a sport bike for most of my life. You know, I'm already past my prime in years, technically. And you just got to exercise more, you know? I mean, really, all it comes down to is you just have to work out more and keep your body in good shape, and your body will treat you nice. And the bike will treat you nice. And if you learn how to use the bike the way the bike wants to be used, it'll treat you nice. This is a beautiful machine. There are many like it. They are all amazing. And I think more people should really decide if they were interested in a sport bike and they were shooed away by all the people praising nakeds. Yeah, there are a lot of downsides. There are a lot of, you know, realistically speaking, downsides to sport bikes. And despite all of those downsides, for me, it's always been worth it. Always been worth it. And I've been riding for a decade. And longer than that if we're talking about dirt riding. So for me, it's always been worth it. Maybe for some people it's not, and that's fair, to each his own. But for me, it's been great, and I've loved it, and I continue to love it, even despite every single downside that everyone lists in every YouTube video. I love this thing, and I think I always will. So if you are looking at buying a new motorcycle and you really want a sport bike, but people are telling you how uncomfortable they are, or they're telling you why you should get something else instead, hey man, figure out what you want. Figure out why you want it and get it. You don't live for other people. You don't live for YouTube clout. You don't live for people to think you're cool, or to think you're good at riding, or to think you have all the answers. We ride these bikes because we want to. And pick one that you want to ride. Pick one that you want to look at. When you go out to your garage and think, man, it's kind of cold out today, or it's kind of hot out today, or it just rained. You go out to the garage and look at your bike and think, ah, man, oh, it's worth it. It's worth it. And that's all I really have to say. This, to me, is that bike. This, to me, is worth it. Just find something that's worth it to you.